Beauford Delaney. Self-portrait from 1963. And he is featured here along with the other pioneers of Knoxville art scene here at the Knoxville Art Museum. And an exhibit called Higher Ground. Beauford Delaney and his brother, Joseph Delaney, are featured in this portion of the exhibit. Both are from Knoxville. And while they began their careers in Knoxville, their success was in leaving Knoxville for parts of New York, primarily. Beauford, the more noted of the two artists, settled in Greenwich Village in New York. And immediately, he was immersed in the social scene of New York. Beauford, a gay man, soon was introduced to James Baldwin, the African-American writer of the 50s and 60s. Go Tell It on the Mountain. If Beale Street Could Talk was very inspired by Beauford Delaney of Knoxville. It was Baldwin who wrote that Beauford Delaney allowed him to see. He gave him an eye that Baldwin perhaps was missing. Beauford, like many of the Knoxville pioneers here in the Higher Ground exhibit, all seem to start with the real and progress in time to the impressionistic style, whether it's Catherine Wiley, Lloyd Branson, all begin with the real world and move on out in a progressive way as they develop over time. While Beauford was very popular in Greenwich Village and had no problems mixing in with the social scene, in New York with other artists like Baldwin. His brother, Joseph Delaney, had a little bit more of a time. Joseph was a wanderer. And while Beauford enjoyed the people of New York, like Baldwin, Joseph sought always sort of parade of people. Like this mural here of the Macy's parade in New York. If he didn't see a parade of people, Joseph saw buildings, huge cathedrals in New York. Notice the contrast in this picture from New York of a cathedral. And notice how teeny tiny and insignificant the people are to this gorgeous cathedral, this structure in New York that towers into the heavens. Sort of dwarfs the celebrants below. Marble Collegiate College, 74, 75. Not quite the people he knew back here in Knoxville. This is a great work by Joseph of a very familiar scene he has, or that he knew growing up here in Knoxville. It was begun in New York, but it's of Knoxville and of his Sunday school upbringing here. Notice the people here are defined, and there is passion, whether it is the boy's father that's about to beat the two young brothers for misbehaving, or the church woman who's had enough of their foolishness. Joseph Delaney eventually returned to Knoxville. He taught for a time at the University of Tennessee. And he is buried in a Knoxville cemetery. His brother Beauford was an expatriate, not only of Knoxville, but of the United States. Like so many others, James Baldwin, Toni Morrison, on and on and on. Many black artists during the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s left the U.S. disgusted and settled in France or Europe. Such was the case with Beauford. Beauford eventually died in France and is buried there. Beauford and Joseph Delaney, part of the Higher Ground exhibit of pioneer artists of Knoxville, Tennessee. This month of February 2024.